field here. And Brad Nelson and Jacob Wilson, you got Death and Taxes on the left. You've got Grixis Delver on the right. And these players will be given the green light here in just a second. What a way to start the Players' Championship here from Roanoke. We'll see how Wilson does start things. It looks like Nelson will be on the play here with a Wasteland and a copy of Aether Vial. Away we go here in round number 1. For Jacob, it's an Underground Sea and a copy of Deathrite Shaman. No fetch land just yet. Brad, with a Wasteland already on the battlefield, can use that to kill the Underground Sea if he'd like to, as Vial does tick up to 1. For this matchup, I think it's pretty important to get Vial on the board early and being able to just mess with their mana and then start vialing things through.
There's a lot of mana denial elements in Death and Taxes. Creatures like Thalia alongside the Wastelands and Ports. Wasteland and the Aether Vial on the play is perhaps the best opening that Brad can have against Death and Taxes. Especially as he's able to get this Deathrite Shaman on the board, off the board. He can be very aggressive attacking Wilson's mana and still be able to function just fine with the Aether Vial.
It'll be a Swords of Plowshares here for Nelson. He'll use that to take care of the Deathrite Shaman. And now Wasteland's going to take care of the Underground Sea. It's a great start here for Nelson. This is exactly how Death and Taxes wants to play things. For Wilson, Underground Sea, and now another copy of Deathrite Shaman, so he'll just repeat the turn, but Nelson will bring his Vial up to 2, and he'll take a draw step here. Again, he mentioned some of the unique cards in Nelson's deck list here this weekend, Spear of the Labyrinth being one. We don't see that one a ton in Death and Taxes anymore. He's also got 2 main deck copies of Mirror Crusader this weekend.
And Brad was telling me about the testing that he did with this deck. He said it's very important to be slow and steady. This is not a deck where you're looking to jam, and we know a lot of Brad's success in Legacy has been with Sneak and Show. This is a deck that's a lot more about taking your time, making sure that cards like Daze and Spell Pierce do very little, and slowly bury your opponent with various sources of card advantage and mana denial.
It's an interesting line of play here on turn number 2 for Brad. He's going to play a copy of Caracas and actually hard cast a Thalia, even though he has a Vial on 2. So if you're Jacob, that of course leads you to believe that, okay, something's coming out of that Vial if you're hard casting a 2-mana spell.
The most dangerous thing here being naturally Stoneforge Mystic. That's the card I think Wilson wants to see the least. Also possible that Nelson has a second copy of Thalia in hand and was trying to draw to counterspell.
Sure.
And then sneak the second copy of the Legend into play.
Now, Thalia is very taxing on these Delver decks. Yes, Wilson does have Deathrite Shaman to kind of mitigate that, but Thalia makes things pretty difficult for Delver decks.
When your deck is full of 0 and 1 mana spells, Thalia represents a significant tax.
Deathrite Shaman's going to go active, take care of a Wasteland here, and now here's a copy of Young Pyromancer. And Wilson will just pass the turn back. You see Lightning Bolt in hand, but that'll cost 2 mana, not 1. An activation Aether Vial is going to put a Sarah Avenger on the battlefield, so Nelson's going to get in the air early.
Death and Taxes is also a deck with a lot of creature keywords in it, and those keywords are important in this matchup. Flying and Vigilance and a creature of this size is very hard for Wilson to attack through, as is a 2-power first striker. So even with Nelson playing what appears to be innocuous creatures, their size and their keywords are very important in this matchup.
We're heading back Nelson's way. His Vial is on 3. As far as things to do with Vial on 3, Mirror Crusader, mentioned that already. That's 1. Flicker Wisp is another. Nothing too crazy going on from Nelson's deck list here this week, and you're not going to find a card like Mangara or anything like that. Vryn's Wingmare is a card that we've seen make its way into Death and Taxes a little bit, but he doesn't have any of those this weekend, excuse me. A little bit more of a streamlined deck list here from Brad. Looks like he's going to go with the Mother of Runes now.
And this is one of the best cards in Death and Taxes in creature and removal matchups, which Grixis Delver definitely qualifies as. If Nelson gets to untap with this in play, it's going to be very hard for Wilson to engage in combat.
Well, we're getting to the stage now where Brad has put 3 creatures on the battlefield, and Jacob's got to deal with all of them.
Yes. And it is one of the best ways for him to work around a situation like this is with a Young Pyromancer going wide. But the problem is that with a Vigilance Flyer in play, with a 2-power first striker that Nelson can leave back on defense, now threatening a Mother Runes to go active, and the fact that Wilson's spell count is constrained by the Thalia, Young Pyromancer, which is usually one of the best weapons here, is not that serviceable.
If Brad believes that a lot of players are going to play Delver strategies here this week and he doesn't have to worry a ton about combo, this is a great place to be. Deathrite Shaman going to go active. Here's a Brainstorm. Going to trigger the Young Pyromancer. An elemental token will be on the way. Wilson will draw 3 cards. Of course, he'll have to put 2 back, and he does have a fetch on the battlefield to make it a pretty healthy Brainstorm.
I would imagine Wilson's line of play here is going to be Brainstorm, resolve this, play another land, and probably bolt the Mother of Runes. But if he's able to keep Young Pyromancer in play, maybe the priority is get the flyer off the table and try to leverage Young Pyromancer over a long game to go wide and mostly ignore the Mother of Runes.
And you see, the one card that I can't think Jacob will target is Dahlia because the Crocus is available.
Right. I think it's a choice between Sarah Avenger and Mother of Runes. Instinctually, you just say, get rid of the Mother of Runes. It makes everything so problematic. But with Young Pyromancer in play, it's possible that Wilson says, well, I can beat Mother of Runes by just going around it, but I don't have a great answer for the flyer.
Wilson will now sacrifice a Scalding Dart, and he'll search a land out of his deck, get to shuffle some of the bad cards away with Brainstorm. You see, he does have a copy of Lightning Bolt and another copy of Young Pyromancer on the battlefield. I would say he's not underneath that much pressure from a life total standpoint. He's just got Sarah Avenger hitting him at this point, so he'll probably fall down to 12 next turn, depending on what he wants to kill with the Lightning Bolt, if he wants to kill something this turn with Lightning Bolt.
The flip side of it is killing the Sarah Avenger now is the best from an immediate standpoint, but if he kills the Mother Runes, then he's drawing live to Lightning Bolt for a very long time.
Well, he's going to go with the Sarah Avenger. Young Pyromancer going to trigger. And now Nelson going to think a little bit here. 3 mana available. Excuse me, 3 on the vial available for Flicker Wisp shenanigans. It does not appear as though he has a Flicker Wisp to violin. So Sarah Avenger down. And nothing for Nelson to violin here.
I think we would have certainly seen a Flicker Wisp had that been in Nelson's hand.
I was expecting, if no Flicker Wisp, maybe the Mirror Crusader to slide out there, but doesn't appear as though he has one of those either, so Nelson will just draw a card. Another copy of Source of Plowshares in hand. He also has a backup Thalia. Here comes the first one. First strike, obviously quite good on that card. Wilson going to fall down to 13. And now the follow-up here for Brad is the Sword's going to go after the Young Pyromancer.
You see Brad paying 2 there because of the Thalia. No risk of a free counter coming out of Wilson because he's tapped out and the Thalia is in play.
Volcanic Island the draw here for Jacob. Another copy of Young Pyromancer in hand. It looks like the last card is a Ponder.
But given how good Nelson's opening was here, Wilson is not in bad shape. He's able this turn to play Young Pyromancer and Ponder. There's plenty of food for Deathrite Shaman to work with in terms of spells in the graveyard. He's generating a fairly large army with Young Pyromancer, and Nelson only has so much creature removal in the main deck. He's certainly not out of the woods by any stretch, but given how good Nelson's start was with turn 1 Wasteland Vial in the play, a lot of stuff to do, now an active Mother of Runes, Wilson's in pretty good shape.
That was a pretty fast keep with the Ponder. Land plus Delver's the follow-up, and you have to imagine if he's keeping with the Ponder that Delver is flipping next turn, which means he's drawing a spell, which means Young Pyromancer gets to make another elemental.
Right, just another cantrip, a Brainstorm, or a Ponder here would be great for Wilson.
Nelson draws a Plains this turn. You mentioned it. The start that Brad had was very impressive. A Vial, a Wasteland, Sword your Deathrite Shaman, Wasteland your land, pass the turn back with a Vial going up to 2, but just hasn't got to take advantage yet.
Because Wilson decided to go after Sarah Avenger instead of Mother Runes, it means that Nelson is definitely still drawing to Stoneforge Mystic. Because he has Stoneforge Mystic plus Mother of Runes. That's going to untap, and then it's not too hard to get a game-winning piece of equipment, be it Batterskull or Umezawa's Jitte.
And heck, even Sword of Fire and Ice looks pretty nice right now.
It would not be bad either.
Third land there for Nelson is a Plains. Looks like he's just going to recast Thalia. Going to bounce it with Caracas, recast it, pass the turn back. Wilson without any cards in his hand, as he does reveal a Ponder. So Delver will flip into Insectile Aberration, and now Jacob will play a Ponder right away. Another Elemental token. Now he'll take a look at the top couple of cards. We'll see if he wants to keep them or not. He's going to shuffle very quickly.
He was looking at a Delver of Secrets and 2 fetch lands. If there had just been one spell in the top 3 there, that would have been another very quick keep.
Yeah.
But that Delver and 2 fetch lands not doing a whole lot of work here.
So a mystery card coming here for Wilson. But he is certainly in an enviable situation right now. Insect Operation is going to come across in the red zone. Nelson Going to activate Vial. Here is Flicker Wisp. Going to take care of one of these elemental tokens and look to block the Delver.
Really bad news here for Wilson, as he's down his Insectile Apparition. Now Nelson has the advantage in the air. It's funny, when these two decks square off, I almost feel like I'm covering a game of Sealed, to some extent.
It is strange.
It's like creature keywords, who has the advantage in the air, what are the life totals? Does not look like what you would assume a game of Legacy would look like.
And it makes you wonder if Brad just drew that Flicker Wisp. Had he been holding it for some time? Who knows? But things work out very well there in combination with Mother of Runes.
I'm guessing he drew it after the Lightning Bolt on the Sarah Venture. I think that spot was good enough for Brad to try to save the Sarah Venture.
Well, now he's going to head into the red zone with Thalia and the Flicker Wisp. See if Jacob wants to do any blocking at this point.
He can block with, say, 3 tokens on Thalia and at least force a move with Mother of Runes. But with Jacob having not that much pressure in play and no cards in hand to try to undo something, I think we're more likely just to see a chump block, which is what we see.
Okay, he'll save 2 points of damage. He'll take 3. And Nelson will just pass the turn back. Deathrite Shaman going to go active. It will be draining Nelson as there goes the Swords to Plowshares. We'll be heading back Jacob's way now. And we'll see what he's got to do on this turn. As this game has kind of swung back and forth a little bit here. It felt like Jacob was starting to pull away with a timely Flicker Wisp there.
And Young Pyromancer going wide here, but Wilson has not found that many spells in the intervening turns, and that Flicker Wisp was very bad news. And Wilson fell behind early on in the game based on Nelson's start, so the life totals are not in his favor either.
We have our first update, and we're going to have a lot of those here this weekend, so make sure you're listening at home as we have Kevin Jones. Can I call him the daddy? Is that okay? Are you comfortable with that?
It's not my call to make, man. I mean,
it's his nickname. Everyone calls him that. He beat Rudy Briscoe 2-0. So as far as Group A is concerned for Legacy, those are the 2 players in this group. Kevin Jones starts off with a victory, looking to improve on his performance last year.
and there's a lot of pressure on that match, too. Because you know when those 2 players sit down, they're thinking in their heads, I got to get this one.
Because I got 2 tough ones in front of me.
Because these 2 players are waiting for me in the next 2 rounds.
Looks like Deathrite Shaman's going to go active here. You see some blocking to be done on Thalia. I think Jacob trying to force maybe a Mother of Runes activation here. First strike damage is going to take care of Deathrite Shaman. Regular damage we'll see. Regular damage, Thalia down. 3 damage will come across from the Flicker Wisp. There's a Plains. Here's another copy of Thalia. We head back Jacob's way. He'll draw a card. It'll be a 2-mana Ponder. That'll trigger the Young Pyromancer. Wilson will take a look at the top couple of cards. As far as Jacob and his deck list is concerned, what's he looking for here?
I think he needs to be able to chain together multiple removal spells to get Mother Runes off the table and then do something about the Flicker Wisp. But this is problematic, and this is why people play a deck like Death and Taxes, even though you look at the deck list compared to a lot of Legacy deck lists, it looks underpowered, is that you have enough mana denial and hateful creatures like Spiritual Labyrinth and Thalia to make things taxing on the powerful decks of the format. And then cards like Mother of Runes, Flicker Wisp, even something like Sarah Venture gives you an edge in the creature matchups. So you're trying to split the difference between the 2 matchups you're trying to fight.
You know, what's interesting about this particular game that we're playing here, too, is, you know, you think of that Lightning Bolt a little bit earlier. Could have went after Mother of Runes or could have went after Sarah Avenger. Went after Sarah Avenger, and I'm not saying it was right or wrong. I have no idea. I think that's what's so difficult about playing in Death and Taxes is you have 2 targets that you want to kill, and Death and Taxes presents difficult to answer threats.
The decision point is essentially if Wilson gets rid of the Sarah Avenger, he's saying Lightning Bolt's unlikely to be doing very much for the remainder of the game. But he didn't have any more bolts in his hand at the time. If he goes after Mother of Runes, he needs to find another Lightning Bolt very soon. If he does, he's in a much better position than doing it the other way around. But since he had no other bolts in his hand, he made the best play with 1 bolt, which was getting rid of the Sarah Avenger.
And now things get very tough for Wilson because there's another copy of Mother of Runes. His hand is just forcible in 2 lands, and he will concede the game. So Brad Nelson is going to win game number 1 here over Jacob Wilson. Death and Taxes up a game over Grixis Delver, which means we're going to have to take a look at the sideboards here for both players, get an idea of what Wilson's drawing towards now, because that first game, didn't go the way I think he wanted it to. Obviously, it's a loss, but, you know, it's just a situation there where, again, I'm not sure what he's supposed to do with the lightning bolt there. Started to flood out a little bit at the end, and Nelson picks up that win.
Well, I think Wilson had a path there. I get the Sarah Venture off the table, assuming my young Pyromancer sticks around. I'm able to go wide. He drew a Delver at an opportune time, but that Flicker Wisp play, that was the whole game right there, and it just goes to show you the power of Mother Runes in creature-based matchups. One of the best cards in Magic.
And Flicker Wisp went the distance.
Yeah,
that's the other thing to note as well. So we take a look here at the sideboards for both players. You've got Jacob Wilson's in front of you. I'll read it down here as we do get our graphics ready, but we've got a Pithing Needle, a Tormod's Crypt, an Ancient Grudge, 2 copies of Dark Blast, a Price of Progress, 2 Pyroblasts, 2 Submerge, Ancestral Vision is an interesting one, 3 Cabal Therapies, and it looks like a Tropical Island hanging out.
So a couple cards really stick out to me here. The 1 copy of Pithing Needle and the 1 copy of Ancient Grudge do a lot to answer Equipment and Aether Vial, 2 of the most problematic cards in the matchup from Wilson's side. I expect those cards to come in. And the 2 copies of Dark Blast, a lot of 1 toughness creatures in Nelson's list. Some of the more problematic ones like Mother of Runes, Thalia, a big priority for him to get off the table. I think the Dark Blast will come in as well.
As we dig into the sideboard here a little bit on Jacob's side, you know, I think part of the reason that Brad is playing the deck he's playing here this weekend, think of the cards that are really good against Death and Taxes. Dread of Night, among others. You don't expect players to really bring those to the table here this weekend because really none of the players across our 16 are Death and Taxes players.
Yeah, you know, Dread of Night, Massacre, these are not cards you'd really anticipate. Someone would have to really feel like someone was likely to play Death and Taxes. There's no one you can point to in the field who's known as a Death and Taxes player. It would be weird for people to have this specific hate in the sideboards. You might see a Sulfur Elemental here and there. You might see a Dark Blast here or there, but you're probably not going to be playing against the most egregious hate.
On the other side of things here for Brad Nelson, he's got a Pithing Needle, a Ratchet Bomb, 3 Aethersworn Canoness, a Woodleaf Leech, 3 Rest in Peace, 2 Mindbreak Traps, 2 Council's Judgment, a Cataclysm, and a copy of Sunlance.
Not a whole lot of superstars in this matchup. Wilson doing a lot of the work game 1. I think the 1 copy of Ratchet Bomb is fine to bring in. It's good on 0 because of Young Pyromancer and Insectile Aberration, and Wilson has other small permanents on top of that. Rest in Peace is okay in this kind of matchup. Wilson is using his graveyard, not to the same extent that Temur Delver is, but there's still enough delving going on here in Deathrite Shamans where the Rest in Peace may come in. The Sunlance is also totally fine. Good 1-mana removal spell.
Well, those are the options there for both players. One thing I do know about this tournament, sideboarding might take a little bit longer here for these players because every decision is so crucial.
On top of that, you have the deck list.
Yeah.
You aren't guessing, so you know exactly what's going on.
Well, these 2 players do get ready here for game number 2. Jacob Wilson will be on the play. We'll talk about StarCityGames.com Game Night, the very popular promotion where in the month of December, a little bit of time left to get the reindeer, but we got some cool stuff, coming for 2016.
Yep. Go ahead over to StarCityGames.com/Game Night for more information. You can contact your Star City Games in-store play representative. Every month we generate new pins and tokens that we send to the stores that sign up for Game Night. Stores can run Game Night however they want to any day of the week. Just get players in the store on a regular basis for some fun and friendly Magic. This is the December kit you're playing for right now. We got January coming down the pipeline. That's the Grizzly brand. And February, Magus of the Moo. StarCityGames.com/Game Night for more information or contact your Star City Games in-store player representative. Canadian stores, we have changed the shipping rates on these kits. We are now just charging U.S. domestic to send these out to Canada. So if you have not signed up for Game Night because of the cost of the kits, we've changed that. Contact your Star City Games in-store player representative and get signed up today.
Well, as these 2 players do get ready here for game number 2, we've got 16 players that we've got to learn a lot about. Now, keep in mind, StarCityGames.com is where you can find the coverage of this tournament. You can find more out about Jacob Wilson, the 20-year-old, lives in Vancouver, Canada, Season 1 Invitational winner. You see the resume here. We don't see him a ton of the Open Series, but when we do, he wins.
He is a tough out. One of the rising stars of Magic, not just American Magic, Magic period. He is building towards an incredible professional career at the age of 20.
I could only wish that I was this good when I was 20. You see here, Open top 8, 6, Open wins 3, an Invitational top 8, just 1 earlier this year, but he got the job done, beat Reed Duke in the finals. 47 Open Series points this last year, but he didn't need a ton to qualify because he got the job done at our Season 1 Invitational. You see the 66% win percentage as well. He hasn't played a lot against the field, but he's 5-2 when he does play against the players in this field. And now he's ready to go for game number 2, as is Nelson. Jacob will be on the play. What's interesting, too, is that for Jacob, if he was on the play the last game, I think the outcome may be way different. He's got a Deathrite Shaman rocking and rolling on the play.
Also a lot more likely to be able to do something about the Aether Vial.
Yeah. For Nelson, Here's his hand. Rest in peace, Aether Vial. Stoneforge Mystic. Mother of Runes. Another Vial, 2 lands there, and Port and Plains, I think, a keep every time.
This is a great opening hand. You have Aether Vial and a path to get to Stoneforge Mystic with Mother of Runes protection, and one of your sideboard cards in Rest in Peace.
Brainstorm is the draw here for Wilson. He'll crack a Misty Rainforest, fall down to 17. Delver's Secrets is where he's going to get things started, and that's a bit of a weakness, I think, to Brad's hand.
Yeah, there's no creature removal.
Yeah.
And no flyers. So,
Well, you could just draw swords.
or you can just, draw the best card. That also works.
It's a Vial to start. We'll see if this does resolve. And it'll be a daze here from Wilson. Wants to keep Nelson off balance. And now the reveal. Delver will flip into Insectile Aberration. Ponder is the draw. Underground Sea will be the land. And now here's the Ponder. He'll take a look at the top couple of cards here. Dark Blast among them. There's also a Deathrite Shaman in there. Those are some pretty good cards to find.
A nice mixture of cards here. The Dark Blast being very important as an answer to Mother of Runes, which is problematic. Dark Blast can also be an answer to Stoneforge Mystic or other 2-toughness creatures. You can Dark Blast in your upkeep, dredge it back. You can use their cantrips to dredge it back as well.
Trigger with Cataxian Probe, of course.
Yeah. So that card seems, if I'm in Wilson's spot right now, it's a big priority to keep the Dark Blast. I can't imagine this one getting shuffled away.
How he wants to order him is an interesting situation. But he disagrees with you.
Okay.
He's going to let Dark Blast go. Does not like what he saw there, so he'll shuffle away. Mystery card on the way.
Maybe there's an issue with not having enough mana in that hand, because based on what he saw in Nelson's hand, Dark Blast seems like a great card to me.
Here comes Insectile Aberration. And now we head back Brad's way. Brad will take a draw here. 17 all. See how he wants to lead out this turn. Remember, his first draw step of the game was Swords to Plowshares. We know he's got a Rashad in Port in his hand if he wants to mess with Jacob's mana. He's got Rest in Peace to mess with the graveyards. A lot of different options available here for Nelson. How you sequence here is very important. He'll go with the Port, and he wants to get Rest in Peace out there. And to me, this is really Brad kind of using his life total as a resource. He could panic, try to swords here, get that Delver off the battlefield. But you don't see much panic here. He says, I can take a few hits.
Yeah, it's not like Wilson has a lot of burnout in the deck. It's just the 4 copies of Lightning Bolt. Maybe there's a Chain Lightning in the list as well. So Nelson can afford to take some hits, setting up his board and playing around cards like Daze and Spell Pierce to the best of his ability.
It's another copy of Daze. And now Wilson will draw a copy of Ponder again. Here comes the attack. Nelson will fall down to 14.
And I think this is the reason that Wilson shuffled away with the Ponder, though, in previous turn. There was no lands in the top 3. You can see he's still just working with Underground Sea.
Gurmag Angler in hand here for Jacob. And that might be part of the reason you saw him battle over that Rest in Peace. Now, this is, of course, a deck that does use its graveyard quite a bit. So you want to keep Rest in Peace off the board if you can.
Tough turn here for Wilson. He has the opportunity to Wasteland away the Port, and that sets him up for an Angler the next turn. But it does mean that Nelson basically has the coast clear to resolve whatever he wants to, and that Stoneforge Mystic is really problematic. Playing the Underground Sea represents a lot more strength, but it does open up the risk of Nelson simply porting Wilson's Underground Sea the next turn, and then Wilson has nothing to do inside of his main phase. Yeah. I think the reason to just play the Underground Sea here is that Wilson has a Brainstorm in hand, so he gets a lot of looks at another source, even if Nelson spends his entire turn just porting him off the Underground Sea.
And a fetch land, if he's able to find one of those, is good for quite a few reasons.
Exactly. Then the Angler's in play. Nelson spent his whole turn doing nothing. So I think there is an argument there to Wasteland, but I like Wilson's play here of just putting the Underground Sea back into play.
See where Brad wants to go here. The thing that makes Legacy so great is a lot of decisions to make on the first few turns of the game.
And there's a lot of information just with the stuff that's in play. It's a very complicated format to play, and a lot of the nuance can be lost if you're relatively new to the format because it just looks like these players are thinking for 45 seconds before playing a land and saying go. But there's just a lot of information to be accrued based on the way that the cantrips get sequenced, by the way that people deploy their lands out. And if you're a student of the format, you recognize the complexities.
Plains is the land. Nelson going to go to Stoneforge Mystic now. And Jacob will let that one resolve actually pretty quickly. So we'll see what equipment Nelson wants to search up. We know he's got Batterskull and Wazawa's GTA, Sword of Fire. Nice access to all those cards here this weekend. And you know, something that we do see quite a bit from Death and Taxes in the sideboard. This kind of just goes to show you the type of tournament they're playing. And sometimes you'll see Manriki Gusari in the sideboard. You're expecting, yeah, maybe I'll run into the mirror, stuff like that. But Nelson not expecting to play against the mirror here this weekend. A Batterskull, the weapon of choice. And now will Nelson maybe try to cast that Swords of Plowshares, or will he try to deploy an Aether Vial? He'll go with a Vial. He's been holding on that sword for some time. Spell Pierce is going to take care of the Vial. Now we head back Jacob Wilson's way. He'll draw a card. Young Pyromancer the draw, but it does not appear as though he has a red source of mana just yet. Insectile Aberration will be coming across for 3 in the air yet again, and now Wasteland's going to go after the port. That'll give him the necessary amount of cards in the graveyard to play the Angler.
And this is something that's potentially able to race even something like Batterskull.
Yeah. It's an impressive turn there for Wilson as we head back Nelson's way. Plains the draw here for Brad. Now keep in mind he does have Batterskull in hand, as you did mention. Free reign to drop it right now. Nothing to stop him.
And with another land in hand and Source of Plowshares, this might be the worst case scenario for Wilson here. If the Source of Plowshares resolves on the Gurmag Angler and Wilson can't answer the Batterskull, that's just it. There's no racing with Insectile Aberration.
We have another update here for you, as Nelson's going to play Source of Plowshares and go after the Angler. Caleb Scherer, maybe the hottest player coming into this tournament after winning that Season 4 Invitational in Las Vegas last weekend. He wins his match over Ross Merriam 2-0. For Scherer, Storm and Legacy, no surprise there. For Merriam, maybe a bit of a surprise, playing Sneak and Show.
Definitely an upset. You think of Ross for 2 decks, Storm and Elves.
A Ponder and a Brainstorm in hand here for Wilson. He'll play the Ponder to start. That'll resolve. He'll take a look at the top couple of cards. We'll see if he wants to keep them or not.
At this point, Wilson basically needs to draw 2 Red Source plus Ancient Grudge to be able to get out of this one.
Well, it's good to have outs.
This assumes the Grudge is even in the deck.
I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
I think it probably is as well.
Deck sees so many cards. You got a lot of artifacts to kill in violent equipment. Tropical Island is a way to flash back the Ancient Grudge if he's able to find it.
And that Tropical Island is out of the sideboard. I imagine it's a pair with the Ancient Grudge, so. He has a Deathrite Shaman in hand, so that gives you access to red mana. There's a path here.
There's Deathrite Shaman. Pass that turn back. Here comes Batterskull. Trigger, Germ Token on the way. Nelson going to very quickly untap. Life totals right now certainly in Wilson's favor. I think maybe the battlefield advantage is going to go to Nelson because of the Batterskull as he comes across for 4. He'll go up to 12. Wilson will fall to 18. Nelson will play a Plains. Here's a Mother of Runes, a card that caused a lot of problems for Wilson in the last game. Brad will pass the turn over to Jacob.
And I don't think Brad is going to be doing anything with this 3 mana for the remainder of the game. I think he's just attacking with Batterskull. He's going to leave up 3 to protect the Batterskull from a removal spell. He has Mother of Runes plus Stoneforge Mystic to get an easy redeploy of the Batterskull should that come up. I think Brad is banking just on this Batterskull being good enough to win the game on its own.
I think we got a lot of game modes to be played here, however. Wilson with a Young Pyromancer, now he's casting a Brainstorm. He's found a Wasteland among these cards. He'll have to put 2 cards back, of course, and he's got another copy of Brainstorm in hand, so I think we're working our way into the mid-game right now.
Still going to be tough, but Wilson right now is attacking for 5, essentially, as an Insectile Aberration plus a Deathrite Shaman he can activate, against Brad gaining 4 life a turn. So he is theoretically making some headway. Now, Brad has a Batterskull in play, and Wilson needs to be able to manage that on the other side, but in terms of the light total, he can make some headway this way.
It was a quick block there with the Elemental Token by Jacob, jumping in front of the Batterskull. Light total's 18 to 13 now in favor of Jacob. You'll get a port activation on Jacob's upkeep. See what land Brad wants to tap. Maybe he wants to port now, maybe he doesn't. It looks like he doesn't. He'll let Wilson draw, and in the draw step, he'll go after the Underground Sea. Keep in mind, Nelson's Mother of Runes is active now. So cards like Lightning Bolt might be reserved for just going upstairs.
Assuming that he can cast the Lightning Bolt at some point.
At some stage.
He's got the Deathrite Shaman available,
Yep.
so I guess he has access to red mana.
Jacob will remove the Swords of Plowshares. Now here's Ponder. Another Elemental Token. I'll take a look at the top couple. Wasteland, Cabal Therapy. And it looks like a Scalding Tarn. We'll see how Jacob values these cards. Looks like he will shuffle.
He's really digging at this point towards Ancient Grudge. He has the mana available to cast it, and the lands mean very little to him.
Now it's time for Wilson to draw. In comes Insectile Aberration. Nelson going to fall down to 8. Wilson will just pass the turn back. Well, you can see right now, as Nelson picks up a Wasteland, he's also got a Plains in his hand, so he's flooding.
Well, Wasteland's not a terrible pickup alongside the Rashadan port. You can really start jamming Wilson's mana.
I'm curious to see what land Brad will want to go after with the Wasteland. I think there's an argument for both sides. Of course, Underground Sea, a lot more potent in Jacob's deck, but that Tropical Island represents Ancient Grudge flashback, which might play a role in things. That said, Underground Sea down.
It can also just be a random tropical island for Deathrite Shaman activations. You see that sometimes in the 3-color lists where it's just there to activate the green side of Deathrite Shaman. The Underground Sea implies all sorts of cards out of Wilson's list. He's base black, so I think it's just a lot safer to go ahead and take care of the Underground Sea.
It's a Rashadan port activation here from Nelson. Wilson will cast a Brainstorm. And he's found a copy of Dark Blast. Now, we saw him shuffle one of those away earlier. But he's found it again. Again, these Delver decks do see so many cards. Here comes Insect Aberration. Nelson will fall down to 9. Jacob wants to make sure he knows exactly what Mother of Runes does. Now, there's a copy of Underground Sea. And I think he might have that Dark Blast floating around in hand. Things are getting a little interesting now.
He has an opportunity and a turn to Dark Blast the Mother Runes, untap, dredge it back. Get rid of the Mother of Runes.
Didn't get a great look at Nelson's draw. Looks like it was a copy of Horizon Canopy. That's the card that's looming over this game, is that Insectile Aberration. It's been here from the start. Just kind of cracking on in. Nelson did have the opportunity to take care with the Swords of Plowshares very early on in the game. Held that Swords for a while. And now Wilson's going to go this route. And I kind of like this route.
This is pretty awesome. So he's chump blocking here and dark blasting his own token. That prevents Brad from gaining the 4 life. Wilson also has several lightning bolts in hand, and again, access to red mana because of the Deathrite Shaman. So he can just keep dredging back the dark blast. He gets to block, kill his own blocker, and get a new token for his trouble. So he can do this for as long as he wants.
And this will prevent Nelson from ever gaining any life.
Yep.
And now Nelson's in some serious trouble. He could die as soon as next turn.
I mean, I believe Wilson's hand is 2 bolts, so this could just be end of turn, bolt you off the Deathrite Shaman, untap, attack you, bolt you.
Yep. for Nelson. Again, 2 lands in hand, a Plains and a Horizon Canopy.
And I think Nelson needs to dig for help right now.
Yeah.
If he finds a source to Plowshares for either the Insectile Apparition or the Deathrite Shaman, I would imagine at this point it'd be Insectile Apparition, the board's at least stable.
You can almost kind of feel this was a game that Brad thought he had firm control of, now it's starting to slip away, but that's the power of those cantrips. Able to find the answers. Nelson reaching for a lot of mana now. What do we have here? Maybe it wasn't a Horizon Canopy. Well, looks like it's going to be an equip on the Mother of Runes. And now he'll pass a turn back. Wilson will activate Deathrite Shaman, remove a Wasteland. Here's a Lightning Bolt going to go upstairs. Nelson going to fall down to 6. Another Elemental token will be made. Wilson going to very quickly untap. He'll take a draw here. Does have Lightning Bolt in hand. No dredge necessary. Jacob will attack for 3. Bolt you off of Deathrite Shaman, and that'll get the job done. Jacob Wilson's going to win game number 2 here over Brad Nelson. Grixis Delver, Death and Taxes, getting ready for game number 3.
Great management there by Wilson. The easy mode would have been able to find Ancient Grudge and win the damage race that way, but the Dark Blast alongside his tokens allowed him to manage the Battered Skull. Some chip shots there with Deathrite Shaman, Insect Apparition, a couple bolts to finish it off. A very well played game.
That looked like a game that was going to go to Brad Nelson.
Yeah.
It felt that way for quite a while, but again, those cantrips so powerful for Jacob. Ponder, Brainstorm, digging through the deck, shuffling away with fetch lands, finding what he needs, and then being able to execute once he found them.
This is why some people will not play a non-blue deck in Legacy. Wilson has a lot of control over his draw step. He has a lot of control over finding the right number of lands versus the right number of spells. Brad's deck can just flood out. There's nothing smoothing out his draws past a certain point, so you got to see the difference between the two decks there. Wilson was always able to find gas and find the cards he was digging for, and Brad was at the mercy of his draw step.
And you see the sideboards here for both players already going back to the drawing board, and interesting to see if anything will change on the player of the draw here. How do you feel about Rest in Peace in this matchup for Brad?
It seems okay to me. And you never know exactly how much these Grixis Delver decks are using their graveyard to good effect, but it's definitely not the same weapon it is against a deck like Temur with Tarmogoyf and Nimble Mongoose.
Well, you see that both players will shuffle up, get ready for game number 3. Nelson will be on the play, and as they do get ready, we will talk about the Fall Creature Collection here with Star City Games. We've got playmat sleeves and player bundles of some of your game night favorites.
You see the Hippo, the Otter, the Reindeer, and Penguillian Click all available on playmat sleeves and player bundles over at starcitygames.com/creature collection, or you can head over to our dealer booth at any of the Opens or Grand Prix that we're at.
We will have a Winter 2016 collection on the way for you guys soon enough, but starcitygames.com/creature collection is where you can find our Fall 2015 collection. As we discuss Brad Nelson a little bit more, our defending players champion, the 29-year-old currently residing in Roanoke, Virginia. Of course, how he did qualify is being the champion last year. 8 Open Series top 8s, 1 win, 2 Invitational top 8s with a win as well. 99 Open Series points this year, and you see the win percentage and his lifetime record versus the Players' Championship field.
I think Jacob Wilson is a lot of people's choice for maybe top active player in the tournament. I think Todd Anderson, maybe the most dominant Open Series player playing in the tournament, but Brad might still be the favorite to win this thing. So skilled across all 3 constructed formats.
It's pretty tough to pick against the champ. It's a kind of a classic thing. You just pick who the defending champion's going to be. They're the champ until they're knocked out.
But this is not the easiest draw to get in round 1.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not going to be any easy draws in the tournament, but this might be the most challenging one. And that looked like a game where Brad was going to cruise to a 2-0. I thought that he was way ahead and that Wilson was basically just drawing to Ancient Grudge, but Wilson found a way to keep the pressure up in spite of getting hit with Batter Skull, found a route to chump block the Batter Skull while not having Lifelink trigger, and got the exact season on the last turn.
Another update here for you guys. Todd Anderson does win his first match, played against Alex Bastecki. So Anderson, one of the most dominant players in Open Series history, does defeat the Season 3 Invitational Champion. And our other update here, Joe Lissette does win his match 2-0 over Hunter Nance.
with 30 minutes on the clock.
Impressive.
Good start, Joe.
Yeah, hey.
Way to go.
Must have got the coffee early. Good on him.
Great start to the day for Joe.
For Nance, he is playing Grixis Delver here this weekend. For Joe, he didn't try to trick anyone this year. He's miracling.
No chicanery, no Reanimator, no Tezzeret.
No Gemstone Caverns.
No Gemstone Caverns.
He's just doing his thing. And you even said it. Got done early. You know, there's some coffee and bagels out there, so he's probably trying to get the rest of those before you get out there.
Before I get out there.
Yeah.
They better hurry. Your round's done. That better be your first order of business, because round 2 rolls around, they're not going to be there anymore. Dunkin' Donuts. A luxury I don't get very frequently in California.
Though they're starting to make some out
My
there
commute
now.
to work, actually, I drive by one of the 2 that exist in Southern California.
Yeah, they're starting to grow out there a little bit.
There's one in Culver City, but it involves making a left-hand turn.
No.
And in Los Angeles, that's just
that's hopeless.
I'm not willing to die over Dunkin' Donuts. I just.
Well, that's one of us. Dark Blast. Ooh, that's a tough way to start. Going to take care of Mother Runes. It's so important for Jacob to get that off the battlefield, and Dark Blast is maybe the best way he can do it. Here's a Stoneforge Mystic. We'll see if this resolves. And it will, so Nelson on the hunt for an equipment.
A lot of Nelson's hands can't function in the face of Dark Blast. Stoneforge Mystic is his best route. You can go get an equipment and land that. Then it doesn't really matter what else is going on with his hand.
You know, what's so unique about that last game that we watched, too, you think of a card like Dread Knight that people go to try to beat Death and Taxes. Had the Dark Blast been Dread Knight, I think Brad might actually win that game, because the ability for Jacob to be able to Dark Blast his own creature to prevent lifelink is something Dread of Night would not have been able to provide.
And Dark Blast does work in other matchups as well. It's a spectacular sideboard card against Elves, so it's not just for this matchup. But you are right that Dread of Night, which I think a lot of people would assume is the more hateful of the 2 cards, would not have done very much in that game, whereas Dark Blast was a winning play.
Stoneforge Mystic searches up a copy of Umezawa's GTA, and we head back Wilson's way for his second turn of the game. He'll go to a Brainstorm to start things off. 3 cards on the way. Maybe only 2. Oh, yeah. Looks like he's going to maybe dredge. No, he'll just draw 3. Looks like a couple of lands are going to go back here. He does look a little land heavy at this stage of the game. There's a Gataxian Probe, a Ponder, Delver, Secrets in hand as well.
Yeah, it looked like he kept a very land-heavy hand on the back of Dark Blast, which will buy him a lot of time against many of Nelson's opening hands, and ripped a Brainstorm as the first draw step. So now he is reloaded here. The land spell balance in his hand's a lot better.
Some more updates here for you guys. Tom Ross wins his match 2-0 over Jim Davis. And for Ali Antrazi, he loses his match 2-0 against Jonathan Morowski. Gataxian Probe will show you a copy of Ratchet Bomb, Umezawa's GTA, a Spirit in the Labyrinth, a Swords of Plowshares, and a copy of Caracas.
If Wilson has an answer to Stoneforge Mystic, this hand's a dead end. The Thalia doesn't do anything in the face of the Dark Blast, and then there's some removal spells. But Wilson will have a lot of time to just keep cantripping up.
Where does Jacob want to go next? He'll go to Delver. He'll pass the turn back over to Nelson. Nelson will take a draw. Picked up a Plains. You'll note the difference between the first game and these 2 that we're playing. No Thalia. Makes for a very different game. Here's Spirit in the Labyrinth. Oh, excuse me. There's Thalia now. Pardon me.
With Caracas protection.
Yep.
It wouldn't surprise me if Spirit of the Labyrinth got boarded out in this matchup because of the Dark Blast and Wilson's sideboard. Remember, they know about each other's deck lists. At least Thalia you can protect with Caracas, as we see right here, but Spirit of the Labyrinth just dies.
It's a dredge here from Jacob, and that last one is a notable one.
That counts as a big hit.
Yeah. It's a copy of Ancient Grudge.
I think Wilson would have preferred just for a straight-up answer to the Stoneforge Mystic, but flipping over the Grudge is a fine backup.
That'll certainly change the way Brad wants to play the game. Curious to see where Jacob wants to go. You know, what's also interesting now is that you see Jacob, he plays a land, passes. He's got 2 more lands in hand. Having just a bunch of lands is a way to work your way through it, Thalia. For Nelson, looks like he's going to serve in here with the first striker. And he will. We'll see what comes next here for Brad. A Plains. 3 mana. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace is a big one here as he gets the Grudge out of the graveyard, along stopping other graveyard effects like Gurmag Angler and Dark Blast. Nelson has to pay 3 for this because of the Thalia, which prevents the best carve here, which would be Rest in Peace and Stoneforge in the Jite in a turn. This is still not shabby.
Another thing to note here as well, if Rest in Peace does resolve, that means Dark Blast gets 1 shot.
Mm-hmm. You can see Nelson doing this with the Caracas up, so if Wilson wants to use the Dark Blast on Thalia, Nelson can simply put it back into his hand.
Jacob with a lot to think about here. He'll go with a Thought Scour. Gonna target Nelson. Stoneforge Mystic and a Plains down. Brainstorm the draw.
Usually you target yourself, but because Wilson is likely to lose his graveyard, it doesn't really do anything. And because Nelson is playing a Stoneforge Mystic deck, there is some value in milling him, as you might get the lone Batter Skull.
Looking for Delver. Young Pyromancer the draw. That's land number 4.
Wilson is in a bit of trouble here. You know, he's not applying any pressure because his Delver hasn't flipped yet. And Brad is slowly making the mana situation problematic and getting the game to the point where he's going to get Jite into play.
Wilson able to attack here with his Delver even though it's unflipped because it's got a Dark Blast in hand. So if Stoneforge Mystic wants to block, turn into an 0-1, Delver will beat it in combat. We go back Nelson's way now. Remember, Brad has the Ratchet Bomb. And Ratchet Bomb actually a pretty good one here. If Delver flips, casting cost is 0, and any tokens made with Young Pyromancer, the casting cost is 0. So it can clean all that stuff up. Looks like Brad might be playing a land this turn to start. A lot of options here for Nelson. He'll play Cavern of Souls. We get confirmation on what that's naming here in just a moment.
Land number 5 here is pretty big for Brad because he wants to be able to get Jite, I would imagine, on Thalia, but be able to protect it with Caracas in the event that Wilson has a removal spell. He knows about Dark Blast, could be Lightning Bolt as well.
He'll go with Elemental on Cavern. Flicker Wisp and Elemental.
Brad was telling me there's a lot of lines of play of this deck that aren't necessarily intuitive, that you got to get the reps in before you see them. A very common one that he found in these kind of matchups. Cavern on Elemental for Flicker Wisp. Flicker Wisp then can flicker out your own Cavern. You can reset it to human or more appropriate creature type.
Every angle.
There's a lot of nuance to this deck. A lot of small, odd interlocking pieces that you would not recognize the first time you're playing.
Dark Blast. Gonna go after Thalia. Also gonna allow Jacob to make an Elemental token with Young Pyromancer. Remember, that's the one shot he gets with Dark Blast. So to me, if he's doing this, he's trying to open something up for his turn.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Nelson's gonna activate the port. We'll see what land he wants to target. Looks like he'll go with Underground, so you're gonna check with Delver now, Will Wilson. It's a big hit. Cabal Therapy.
Oh, that's a huge hit here. I mean, at least Nelson with the 2 mana here to get the Umezawa's Jitte into play, but that Ratchet Bomb's also problematic for Wilson right now. In worst case scenario, he can get that out.
And now Jacob will play a Brainstorm. Remember, this is still in the upkeep.
And Wilson needed a little bit of a burst here. He got the Thalia off the table, even though Nelson just sent it back to the hand. But now he's really reloaded. You see a lot of 1-mana spells he can play this turn with Young Pyromancer in play. Can make some real inroads on Nelson's board. Finally get some pressure going.
What comes next? There's the Therapy. Now remember, rest in peace, so not going to be able to flash it back and do anything too crazy with it, but Jacob's got a good idea of what Brad's working with in his hand. He knows about Thalia, he knows about Ratchet Bomb.
I would imagine that he will name Umezawa's Jitte if Brad does nothing.
Okay.
If Brad responds by putting the equipment into play, he will likely name the Ratchet Bomb. Looks like Nelson's just going to let it resolve, though.
Interesting.
Honestly, the name might still be Ratchet Bomb.
It's going to go with Jitte. Therapy gone for good. You see the hand Thalia, Ratchet Bomb, Swords to Plowshares. It seems like the Ratchet Bomb's still going to do some pretty good work here, though.
Yeah. The Jitte, because of the removal in hand, felt a little bit easier for me to, if I was in Wilson's seat, to work around.
Here comes Ponder. Another token. Gonna take a look at the top couple of cards here in just a second, will Jacob. Brad does have a Swords to Plowshares that he can cast. And it looks like he's about to. But someone who's typically so sure of himself when playing Magic, Nelson, not sure if he wants to cast Swords to Plowshares just yet. And if he does, what does he want to target? He looks like he's just going to let it go. So, Ponder's going to resolve. Ancestral Vision among the cards here that Wilson's looking at. Time's starting to become a bit of a factor here, about to be underneath 8 minutes. It'll be a shuffle with the Ponder. Now some of you might be wondering at home, what happens if players do hit time? Go to those 5 extra turns. Well, it'll be sudden death rule, so the players will go to time. They'll play their 5 turns as usual, and then player with the lower life total will lose. Higher life total wins. And players informed of that before the tournament begins. Mm-hmm. No surprise there.
Yeah, this is not a tournament structure that's conducive to draws.
Yeah.
So
Here comes Insectile Aberration. Misty is the land. Another Delver. Pass the turn back. Time for Swords. Looks like it is now. Take care of the Young Pyromancer. But I'm curious to see how Wilson plans on beating the Ratchet Bomb.
yeah, at that point it's just Delver of Secrets versus Stoneforge, Thalia.
There is the Ratchet Bomb. The follow-up here for Nelson is Thalia. Now past that turn back. Wilson will look with Delver.
Doesn't want to flip in any case.
No, he does not.
Don't want to put another 0 on the table. If he doesn't like the card that he sees, he can still sacrifice the Misty and get a fresh draw step.
And it looks like that's what he's going to do.
I was going to say, no bluffing of Stifle to be done here. They have each other's deck lists.
He'll get himself another copy of Volcanic Island. Jacob will be taking a fresh draw step here. You got to remember exactly what he's doing here is with Delver's Secrets, you check the top of your deck to see if you want to flip it or not, and then that's happening in your upkeep. So if you'd like, he can say, okay, I've seen what my card is in my upkeep, I can choose to reveal it, choose not to, and then go from there. Ratchet Bomb will blow everything away. And Jacob knew this was coming, so now he's just left with a solo Delver. Ratchet Bomb doing a lot of nice work there. And now we head back Nelson's way. Looks like Brad with a copy of Sunlance in hand.
Sunlance is a big one. Wilson is obviously very threat light and low on cards on this point. He's not playing towards Gurmag Angler. He's only got so many castable threats left in the deck.
And now there is the Sunlance to take care of the Delver of Secrets. We'll see if it resolves, and it does. And now here come the beatdowns for 3.
I think that Nelson has a Wasteland in hand, which means with Wasteland in port, he can cut Wilson off of black mana in his main phase by going after the Underground Seas.
And that looks like to be the plan.
Still leaves up the Caracas, too.
Gataxian Probe was the draw. That's going to cost a little bit of mana.
The alternative is that Wilson can, say, Chain Lightning the Stoneforge Mystic, and then leave the Gataxian Probe back as something to pair with the Force of Will.
Wasteland the draw here for Jacob.
Wasteland's also not bad because the Caracas has been really problematic this game.
He'll play the Wasteland. No cards in hand here for Nelson. And now we'll go back to Brad. He'll untap underneath 4 minutes here. Brad will draw. It's an attack for 3. Wilson falls down to 10. The follow-up. That's a big one there in Mother of Runes. That might change where that Chain Lightning goes.
Now I believe the priority is Mother of Runes.
Tropical Island the draw. And I think you have to chain now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You don't have. I guess that's the question of do you get rid of the Stoneforge or the Mother Runes? But Nelson has enough mana at this point to just cast any equipment that he happens to draw. So I think you have to go after Mother of Runes.
Mother of Runes down. Jacob will just pass the turn back, not going to play the Tropical Island. Nelson will quickly draw. Here come the attackers yet again. Wilson going to fall down to 7. Brad will just pass the turn back and tap the Black Source. Jacob will draw a copy of Scalding Tarn. He'll play the Tarn, simply pass the turn back over to Nelson. Nelson will quickly draw a card. Another copy of Mother Runes. Here come the beatdowns. Wilson going to fall down to 4. The play here for Brad is the Mother. Pass the turn back over to Jacob. Jacob will have his Black Source tapped again. He'll draw another copy of Probe. Can't afford to pay the life, of course. Doesn't think he wants to use Wasteland, so leave that untapped. Thalia in hand. Young Pyromancer.
But no spell to pair.
Here comes the Pyromancer. As we have our last update besides this match, Danny Jessup wins his match over Logan Mize 2-1. So this will be our final result here. As we're underneath 2 minutes. Nelson will attack. It'll be an attack for 3. It's not a lethal attack. Now, what it does do is it shuts down the fetch land if this comes through. But it also leaves Mother of Runes active.
It leaves Mother of Runes active. And also, he doesn't really care that much about Young Pyromancer, because even if Wilson goes off casting spells next turn, all the blockers are going to be red. So Nelson can simply untap, give a creature protection for red, and come across for the last point.
Well, Brainstorm's not a bad place to start. That'll bring an Elemental along with it. Wilson take a look at 3 cards. Tarn is 1, Bolt is 2, Force of Will is 3.
And what's awesome about this also, now that the Tarn is shut off, I suppose Wilson can play a land here, but before combat, Nelson can port the Volcanic and force the action. Very heads-up play here for Wilson to play the land.
But it doesn't change the fact that he's only got 1 red source of mana.
Right.
So if Brad's concern here is exactly Lightning Bolt,
and there's nothing else for him to really play around here.
he can say, I'll port I think he might see this play right away. I think he's going to say, port your Volcanic, force the action.
This is part of the benefit of public deck lists. Maybe this would be a risky play to run if you didn't know. Still probably safe enough, but there's at least some risk of the unknown. But knowing that Wilson's only interaction here is a lightning bolt, this is a safe play.
What's also kind of interesting here is if you're on Jacob's side, were you supposed to wasteland that port to prevent this play?
Yes.
Maybe yes, maybe no. It's tough to say. But with Jacob at 1, this becomes problematic. Lightning Bolt's going to go after Mother of Runes.
Now Brad just going through his head. Is there anything that punishes me here for going for the kill?
Mm-hmm.
I believe the answer is no, and I believe Brad also believes the answer is no.
And that is going to do it. Brad Nelson is going to win this match here over Jacob Wilson, 2-1. Death and Taxes will defeat Grixis Delver, and for the defending Players Champion, it's a great start again.
A very tough, very interactive match. I thought Wilson played a great second game there, being able to win from a spot that I didn't think he can come back. You can see right now he's going through his head. I don't know if there's a way for him to necessarily get out of that third game, but there were a ton of decisions to be made.
Yeah.
Very interactive game there, and Wilson, I don't think is confident he played that match, that game 3 at least, to the best of his abilities.
You have to imagine he's replaying things in his head, as you mentioned, to figure out, is there something I could have done to get myself out of that situation? You think all 3 games were very close.
Well, to me, the critical decision of the match there was, with that Cabal Therapy, do you get the Jute out of hand, or do you get the Ratchet Bomb out of the hand?